And the thing that's missing is that a kid doesn't feel safe or held in their emotions. They don't feel safely held in their emotions. And by the time your kid is bigger than you at 14, you're scared of them. So it's double scary to face that. But either way, whether they're 4 or 14, the process is the same. You have to first build emotional safety within you. That's healing the nervous system. That's learning to contain yourself and your own emotions.
So you want to make an impact. You're thinking about starting a business, sharing your voice. How do women do it that handle motherhood, family, and still chase after those dreams? Well, listen each week as we dive into the stories of women who know. This is Call Me CEO. Welcome back, everyone, to Call Me CEO. This is a place where we celebrate mothers building businesses, creating paths of growth, and also creating incredible businesses. And today we have Honor Genetski, who is an amazing coach, mentor, and person who has brought so many women, and especially mothers, relief and also joy in the role of motherhood and managing all that comes with it. So we are going to be speaking with her today. Thank you so much, Honor, for being on the show.
Thank you, Camille. I'm so grateful to be here.
Well, I've already fangirled over you. I found you online. I think initially I connected with you on Threads. You don't know this, but that's where I first saw you. And then I went to your Facebook account and I was like, wow, look at this huge community. And then I went to Instagram and I was like, wow, she has all these amazing videos. And it's rare that I see someone who's playing multiple fields well. And I think that you have really figured that out. So I cannot wait to talk to you about who you are and this goal and this field that you are marching through, creating so much peace for women of today.
Oh gosh, thank you so much. That's such a beautiful introduction, and I appreciate all of what you said, because the social media piece is nothing I think that comes natural to any of us. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, tell us like your history a little bit. Like, where do you live? Tell us about your family, and then how did you start this business of coaching that you're doing now?
Yeah, sure. So I live now in Idaho, in Boise, Idaho, with my husband, my 2 kids, and our very sweet puppy. And I've lived in lots of different places. I grew up I'm from New York, and I grew up in the South, which is where the accent comes from, and then lived on the West Coast for a few more decades, and overseas in between there. So I'm somebody who's traveled a lot and who's, I just love adventure. I love experiencing the world. I love utilizing my skills in lots of different ways and formats, and testing that and learning and getting the feedback. So for me to be in coaching now is like really full circle from where this all started as a teacher. So as a teacher of young kids many, many years ago, a lifetime ago, it feels like now, in the South. And then through my process, it became a therapist, and have been a therapist making the transition to coaching for the last 20 years. And and now just having made the leap from in-person work to online work in the last decade has been really freedom creating for me as a mom of 2 kids who everybody's different. What works for me is not going to be what works for someone else. But for me, it became glaringly obvious that I needed to have a lot of freedom to run my own schedule, my own show, put my kids first, be there at all their things that they needed me there for, or pick them up from school early if I needed to. So for me, that's a huge priority. And I get to do that now with running my own business. So.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I know that the freedom of being able to run your own business, it comes with its own perks, and definitely having to figure out the ins and the outs. And I feel like that's something that your content speaks a lot to, is the idea of women, especially mothers, being overtouched, overstimulated. That's a topic that you cover a lot. And it made me think of our audience here, maybe people who are listening and feel that way, especially if they're playing dual roles of mother and boss and wife and all of the things that come with that. I'm curious, what are some tools, or specifically some steps that you help people take when they're going from being overwhelmed and overstimulated to finding peace in their roles that they do every day?
Yeah, it's a great question. I want to just touch on first before getting into kind of the how that so many of the women who come to work with me are really, really smart, really high functioning, also closet highly sensitive people,
Mm,
closet empaths. Many of them don't even realize that they are having a lot of big feelings or overly stimulated, over like sort of have numbed out because they can't hang in there and be present anymore because they're feeling and absorbing so much from their environment, not just their kids, but like work and their partners and all of the stuff we feel we don't know we're feeling. And a lot of like one of the things that I do that's really unique is I can help people to become experts in their own energy. So I know on paper I'm a therapist and a coach, but really what I am best at helping women do is navigate through what they're feeling in a way that doesn't drain their energy, but in a way that really increases that superpower of being like a super feeler or sensor or a lot of my clients identify as overthinkers and perfectionists,
mm,
which is usually just a coping mechanism for being highly sensitive or an empath, which people don't realize. So first comes the kind of like tuning into who are you really under there and learning about that, learning about your strengths and kind of where the gaps are. And then uh, we're identifying like where to build, what needs to be developed and strengthened so that you can navigate through whatever noise, whatever touches, whatever overstimulation is happening in your world at work or at home without the key here is doing it consciously. So without going into that unconscious sort of deflection, contraction, fear, numbing, spacing out, whatever is happening for moms. And I know too, I mean, I remember those days when my kids were really little and there was so much noise and screaming and crying and dysregulation, which is natural. Kids are raw beings of emotion, right? But
mm.
depending on the kids people have, it can get so intense. And a lot of my clients have at least one really intense kid or atypical, like not neurotypical kid, neurodivergent kid. And it's hard. It's hard to tolerate that level of stimuli when you don't know how to regulate yourself. So
Mhm.
most of the tools that are like a part of my program content or my free content teaching moms is how to understand yourself first and then knowing kind of where the knobs and the dials are to be able to turn up or turn down what you're feeling and ultimately move through what your experience is without getting hooked or caught or sort of resisting it, but being able to just allow what's happening to happen, but from a place of resilience, kind of just let it wash over you. And that's sort of the holy grail, isn't it? That's what everybody
Mm.
wants.
Yeah, as you're saying this, it makes me think back to times when my children were younger, and there were moments like that where, and I have some children that are not neurotypical, and if you don't have that settled within yourself, it can be so easy to get swept up in that tide of emotion and wanting to fix it for them, but also not feeling in control of that. And
That's
I'm
right.
curious for you, you said that a lot of the people you work with are empaths. And can you just explain what that is for the audience? Like, and
Yeah.
how would someone know or identify that way to know that that possibly is something that they might want to look into?
Yeah, for sure. So I know because this was me for so much of my life. If you're someone who either you think that you don't like have a lot of feelings, you feel like you're not very emotional, you don't have a lot of feelings, that can be a red flag that you're an empath. If you're someone who feels exhausted, not in the way introverts do simply, but it's more than that. It's like emotional exhaustion. Your tank is empty from being around people who are having big emotions. If you're someone who is kind of goes out of your way to prevent other people from having big feelings, and it can feel like walking on eggshells. It can feel like I just don't like the noise. And we tell ourselves these stories, oh, that gives me a headache. But what's really happening is when you're an empath, you're kind of like a dry sponge.
Mm,
Yourself, your being is like a dry sponge. You don't know what's happening in there, who you are, There's not a strong sense of self in there. And because what you're doing instead is kind of gravitating around and toward other people's energy. And when things get dicey or hard or heavy, you just absorb that into your sponge so that they don't have to feel it. This is, of course, all unconscious. Nobody knows they're doing it. If we knew we were doing it, we would be able to stop it. But most empaths grew up in families where the home they grew up in, the kind of vibe of the family that they grew up in was somewhat intense. And often it's tricky because people go, like, my parents were happy. And versus so many women who are like, I wish I could be as wonderful as my mom. But really, when we start kind of being more real about what was going on, usually what's happening is one parent had a lot of stuff going on under the surface. And that under the surface undercurrent is what empaths pick up on. They swallow, and then either they get sick with chronic pain, migraines. Migraines were my variety of expression. For like 10 years, I was medicated for migraines through childhood into young adulthood before I caught on to the fact that this is maybe more than just a physical problem, because no one could tell me the root cause, which is like a aha moment. A lot of my clients who are empaths also feel heavy. They feel exhausted. They feel like there's something wrong with them, that they can't like cope like other people do, or that they can't just shake something off. But the reason why is because that energy is not all yours, and you haven't realized that yet. So when we're kind of carrying other people's junk and we think it's ours, that's really like the worst of the worst, because we can't even go, that's not mine, I'm going to put it down. So the healing process is really about being able to identify and separate what's me, what's not me as a beginning.
Interesting. I think that is so interesting. And I can also, I'm just thinking of myself, knowing when I go into a room and I can feel energy from people
Yes.
that I don't even know. And that, I think that can be something that it kind of borders on that empath, that spiritual side of you, that you pick up on things without even knowing it.
For
So
sure.
this is so fascinating to me. I'm curious, once someone has identified this, or maybe they realize that they're carrying something that's not theirs and the body is keeping score, which it does, what are the steps that are then taken that you break it down to identifying and releasing those things?
Yeah, great question. So to put it in, I think to answer this and do it justice, I do want to put it in the larger context of when I just explained like what is being an empath. I'm giving you kind of a really typical view and understanding of how people experience being an empath without knowing it. But the path to healing that requires a shift from this is my Achilles heel to, oh my God, I have a superpower. This is my spiritual gift. And so, as a part of owning your spiritual gift of being I call it a big feeler a lot of times, but there are lots of words, things we can call it. Clairsentience is another term for it, or having a really strong sixth sense or psychic sense. You talked about knowing what someone's feeling when you see them and you have no context. You just feel the person and you just know, claircognizance. I just know that person is in pain. That's very much a sign of being an empath or highly sensitive. And the context that we use in Awakened Motherhood with my clients is to help someone first to understand what's happening to them. First, it's awareness, acknowledgement, really naming at the most basic sense, naming what you're feeling, naming what's happening for you. But we quickly move from that into a strengthening of your self-identity, who you are, who you want to be, who you aspire to be at your essence. Who are you really? And one of my gifts is helping people to like see that and figure that out and own that. Because once someone can do that and go, oh my gosh, like that's not me. I'm actually someone who is able to do things other people can't do. I can sense, I know what my kid is feeling before they get out of bed in the morning. I already know before I see their face at the end of the school day. I know if something is off. That is a superpower. So when you clear the clutter through learning how to navigate through your emotions efficiently, quickly, and also through just allowing it to be what it is, not trying to fix it, shove it down, make it wrong, judge it, but just really allowing yourself to be exactly who you are, having the experience you're having. So, starting to sound a little bit like self compassion or kindness. That's the tone we're moving to people toward. Then we can really get into a new kind of self identification with this gift because we're no longer trying to escape it or deny it. We're not trying to talk ourselves out of it or be someone we're not. Once we go like, this is who I am, now we're allowing the experience. Then it's a matter of getting into like what I call the nuts and bolts, the mechanics of embodiment work, which is a huge part of my work with clients. Some people call it somatics. Other people call it emotionally focused work, but we're helping people to embody their intention of who they want to be, their highest self, their strengths, and to really write a new meaning about who they are, which is very strengthening and builds resilience, and to hardwire that into the body. So a part of the process has to be healing the nervous system because that's what's so overreactive when we're overstimulated and we're in that fight or flight response so often that we think it's normal. People start to think this is just who I am. So unwinding that and then building that new sense of stability, steady calm, safety, and most of it, at the bottom, if we distill it all down, it's emotional safety. That's the foundation that we help clients build. And then beyond that, it's just fun, soft skills, communication, boundaries, how to exact this skill, this new sort of ownership of the skill of who I am and what I can do to be a strong leader for the family, to be someone who can hold a limit without caving when the emotions get intense, to be someone who can intuit what her kids need and trust it instead of second guessing it. Those are like the kind of last phases of the work. So I answer
Oh,
the
that's
question.
cool. Yeah, I mean that's really fascinating that journey that you've created and that you've helped so many people to do that. I'm curious, shifting gears a little bit with the actual building of this coaching business. I have a lot of people that reach out or want to be on the show that are coaches. And I think you've figured out a really beautiful way of doing coaching and also creating an online community. What would you say some of your best tips would be for building a community that trusts you and also that doesn't burn you out as a creator and business owner?
Ooh, yeah. So I think one of my guiding lights internally, before content creation ever, before I even get my hands near a keyboard, is assessing my bandwidth and am I living in alignment with my values. That is so important because if or when I have ever dared to push past that, and this is something I teach all my clients, but when we push past that, nothing good comes of it. There's
Hmm.
no clearly communicated idea that inspires anyone to anything good, or if so, it's just it's just very surface oriented. And my work is anything but surface oriented. Even the free content, my goal is always to sort of stop the scroll, turn off the other noise and really listen to yourself when you're engaging with this content. To just see what comes up for you and get curious about it and figure out what you're interested in. What part of yourself are you ignoring? What do you want more of in your life? What would joy be like for you? So if I'm not living those values that I'm aiming to teach other moms, it's over before it begins. So I've
Hmm.
had to learn this really, I definitely had my trial by fire. I think where I built my business from when I became a private practice owner, that's sort of where it began many years ago. I still had babies and they really, really needed me. And there were some hairy things going on. And I had to leave a job I was doing and then move everything to 1 day a week. So I had to start working for myself. And in doing that, so that I could be with them all the other days, and then their dad could be with them on that 1 day week when I was gone for like 12 hours. And it was the only way I could fathom like taking care of them in the way they needed to be taken care of and also paying the bills. And from that point, I was so clear that if I tried to do it any other way than putting my kids first, it just was not going to work for me. And so, and I still really live by that. There are times when like they want me and they want my attention, and I'm like, I have to finish up sending an email, or I'm in a workshop right now. I just wrapped up a huge 10-day free workshop, and there were definitely times where like, oh, still again, they're a little older now, and they still want me to like be with them and hang out with them, which is such a gift and a privilege. And I also know sort of what they can tolerate now and what I can tolerate. There's a little more wiggle room. But I will say that the business has to fit your vision for your life of joy. And my audience, it's just a long held belief that my audience will work around that. They will, the workshop times, the client program call times, the one-to-one session slot openings, like it just is what it is. If I compromise on my sacred alone time or my sacred family time, it doesn't translate for me into meaningful work. So it's a hard line. You can tell that's a hard boundary I have.
Mhm. Yeah, and that takes time to develop. I think that that's something, especially as your business develops, that you can get a little more clear on when you're not wearing as many hats, maybe that you were wearing in the very beginning. What are some ways that you've helped to divvy up that responsibility? Do you have people helping you, or especially where you've grown such a large Facebook following? And I'm curious, when you built that Facebook following, is that something that you did over the last 10 years, or what was really a good avenue for you to do that?
Yeah, it's funny. So I am kind of an old-fashioned girl. I like things really simple and I like to be direct and straightforward. And that's what works for me.
Mhm.
And in terms of like building my Facebook audience, that happened with a little intention in the first 6 months of like, I want to grow this bigger. I think I had like 500 people in my Facebook group or something from organic or whatever. And then I opened my reach up from like private practice and local groups to worldwide. And when I did that, I did run ads to grow my Facebook group to moms who are overwhelmed so I could start helping them with free content. And I think maybe 1,000 people came in, but I have not done anything to grow the group since then. That was probably like I started it maybe 9 or 8 years ago, something like that.
And how
Um,
big is it now? I don't remember. So
I was afraid you were going to ask me. I was like, I don't ever
I
look at
don't.
numbers. I actually don't
Okay.
know. I think maybe it's over 6,000 or maybe 7,000. I know the business page is like over 8,000 following. I do know that
Mhm.
number, but no one sees the business page. So what it is what it
Right.
is. But
Yeah.
IG, you referenced earlier, like turning the camera on myself on IG. I did start playing with it recently, but here's where it comes back to values. So I did have an intention. I want to grow that reach because I know there are people on that platform that are no longer accessing Facebook that do
Mhm.
need help, and they're looking for their teacher. They're looking for the right person to show them the way out of overwhelm. And so I did create an intention and got some intensity behind it, so that I could open to inspired ideas. And the inspired idea that came back like loud and clear was just put yourself out there and really write from the heart. So I started, and I also love to write. So I started writing, and you can see if you were to look at my IG content, it's like a lot of like how to's, like here's how to do this, 1, 2, 3, just very straightforward, mini bite-sized lessons. And I could do that because I have a very like my inner child is alive and well. She loves to play, and that feels playful for me. It actually feels fun to be silly and make fun of myself in front of the camera. So that works for me. When I had tried to do content on Instagram in any other way, it was kind of painful for me.
Mm.
I had to find an avenue that felt like fresh and creative for me. And that was it. So when I feel like it, I do it. And when I don't follow any of the rules, you're supposed to post all the time. Just like when I feel like it and my kids don't need me, I do offer some value for free on my socials. That's it. Other than that though, the growth happens now when I have a free offer out there. I think that's very it just makes sense.
Mhm.
I offer week-long or 10-day workshops for free, and it's a lot of teaching and content. And so people want that. So they bring their friends to the group, and that does grow the numbers. Um, yeah, something that's just a work in progress, I think.
How long have you been doing that 10-day program?
That one, and it does change every time. I kind of didn't intend for it to do that because it's a lot of work. But again, I gotta be in the frequency of what's happening and what I'm
Mm.
feeling out there.
Mm-hmm.
And so it does change every time. But I've been running that type of workshop probably for on and off inconsistently about 5 years, maybe more, but at least 5 years. And then I got committed in 2024 about it. And I was like, I'm going to do it every few months. And so it's now gaining some momentum. It's really and it's getting fun for me too, being
Yeah,
consistent
that's
with it.
cool. So talk to me about a little bit of the nuts and bolts of the way that you do this. So you have this free workshop, and are you hosting it through Zoom? Or I regret I wasn't able
Yeah.
to hop on to that last one that you had. I kind of caught you on the tail end of it. But how do you put it together, and are you gathering emails, I would assume, and then marketing
Yeah.
to them at the end?
Yeah. So the workshop is very focused on giving people a taste of what the transformation is that my clients have. And sometimes I frame it that way, and sometimes I don't frame it that way. But basically, what people know they're going to get when they come to the workshop
Mm-hmm.
is how do you move out of survival mode and like what are the steps? And so I teach and free like it's a lot of coaching freely, a lot of teaching freely in those workshops. And people are shy, so they don't come on camera a lot. And they're shy, so they don't
Mm.
ask questions a lot. But what's beautiful is, as if I was planning this, many of my graduates come on those workshops for more connection and learning and growth. And they tend to add value and they tend to ask really beautiful, elevated, meaningful questions. So it's always fun. And there's always like a lot of living content gets co-created. So um I think in general, it's probably what a lot of other people are doing out there. I haven't run ads to my workshops in a while, but you could run ads to them. I just market organic. I have a big list and I have a lot of people in this, different places that I can reach out to with posts and stuff. So I just invite everyone and I ask friends on my personal page to invite people and come if they want. And I give it a couple weeks and I just have a registration form. So people sign up. And then I'm sending them to directing them to the live Zoom sessions. My preference is to work with people in the room. I get bored on Facebook Live. I can't see anyone. I can't see their
Mm-hmm.
faces, so it's a little bit boring. But I do that weekly as well. I do a standing broadcast on Thursdays. But for the Zoom room, I teach content, and then we have some Q&A or a client share, and then we get sort of near the end of the first week, and I share with people how I help clients in Awaken Motherhood. And that's my front end program. That's a 16-week transformational program. So I'm just very open about that, like who it's right for and what the journey looks like. And I share really openly about that. And so people can know that there's a way. And then I just invite them to come and talk with me and they book a call. And then we can assess if it's the right fit for them. And that's basically it. And then it's beautiful because I have new people in my audience that I could send a newsletter to weekly and
Mm-hmm.
offer them something to nurture them and help them grow. And we've started to nurture people a lot more this year. It's become a really important part of the business for me, building relationships. And I have someone on my team who's so fantastic. And she and I both are we just decided this year to nurture as many people as we can. And it's creating a lot of new connections, which you probably can relate is so beautiful as a work from home business owner who's
Mm-hmm.
sometimes feels like, I'm just shouting into the void. I don't even know if anyone is listening to any of
Yeah.
this. Can anyone even hear me? I see the numbers, but like I like knowing that people are really growing and connecting and landing with this material. So anyway, that's been an added important component for people to feel seen, for people to feel like they matter, for people to feel welcome to the table to do the learning with us, free or paid in the program, whichever they choose, to feel involved and to know that there is support for them to grow has been really fun for us too.
Mm. What is a moment that someone has shared with you in the course of the last decade where you've seen a transformation happen with one of your clients that really meant, I mean, I'm sure you've had many,
Oh,
but is
yeah.
there one that you'd like to share of someone that has gone through your program?
For sure. Oh, there are so many. I have a Rolodex in my mind, but I'll just tell you the most recent one, which happened yesterday. So, in a live workshop session, a client spontaneously came on to share about her experience based on the topic at hand, which was really about people wanting to know how to have that very solid connection with their kids, especially by the time they get to be teenagers. And if you haven't had it up to that point, or you've had it, but it's kind of here and there or shaking, you don't know how you got there. It's so tenuous. It's like trying to deal with an animal, wild animal. You're afraid of scaring it off your 13, 14 year
Yes.
old daughter. A lot of people. So this was a client who, when she came to work with me, her daughter was 15, I think, at the time. And their relationship was so tenuous,
Mm.
so tenuous. That's kind of putting it mildly. And she came to work with me to save her daughter, in her words, to save her daughter and to save her relationship with her daughter. And she knew that coming out of, I think she was still at the tail end of a marriage. She was going through a divorce at the time, and teetering on homelessness. I mean, this is like really extreme circumstance that she was in. And her greatest priority at that time was to figure out how to create a new kind of connection before her daughter graduated from high school, because she saw the window
Mhm.
closing. And she shared on the call that how bad it was, first of all, the fights and the daughter blaming her mom for the end of the marriage, even though it was really unhealthy, and how much anger there was, and how scared she was as a mom to acknowledge and take responsibility and try to reconnect with her daughter, feeling like this very, very intelligent, gifted, highly sensitive kid was just kind of gone. And she shared how now, somewhere in the last few years, she bought her first house that was just for them. And she has she's like, we crank up the music, we cook together, we have dance parties together. She had
Mm.
me in tears at her share of how close and how trusting their connection is now. And it never would have happened had she not had the courage to name the problem and start looking for a solution. But this is kind of like, this happens every day with our clients. And I'm not saying it's because there's some, magic coming from me. The program itself teaches women how to tap into their innate goodness and love and how to really expand in that. So we quite often see relationships with mom and their toughest kid completely doing a 180.
Mm.
And it always feels like a miracle. Even though I know it happens, it always feels to me it is a miracle. It's something that people don't expect, is is such a gift to be able to see someone experience that total renewal, getting a second chance with a kid. It also happens in marriage for people, just the total unexpected when they align with their desires and love and really believe in that goodness. It's amazing what can happen.
Mm. Well, that, I mean, yeah, I'm like, I think that's something we would all want. And you see people who, in their depths of struggle with teenagers, especially, I've had neighbors who have had to send their teens away to, facilities to help rehabilitate or things like that. But if you can do it within the home and with love, that's what we all want. So
That,
I
that's
think it's
it.
curious that you say that it's the woman aligning with their desire and connecting with love that way. What do you think a good, like, if you were to say good first steps for that, for people who are listening and thinking, I want that,
Mm.
what's a good place to start?
Yeah. So to put it in a context, everything comes down to emotional safety. When I first figured this out of how to like create a program that was a step-by-step process, I asked myself this a lot. Where are we going to begin? What is
Mhm.
the beginning? Even when you have a kid who's you think is almost a lost cause. You believe you can't do it. You believe that it's gone too far or whatever. I'm not enough. I heard some of my friends who had really tough kids before I was creating this program say, I think this was a mistake. Like, I shouldn't have become a mom. I don't know how to
Mhm.
parent this kid. And I empathize with that because of my own experience in motherhood, feeling I'm not sure I have it in me. Like, this, something went awry in this whole choosing kid and parent pairs. I don't think I could do this. But it did propel me. I'm a really determined person, and it propelled me to figure it out. And having worked with hundreds of mothers and also kids before that, you started with just kids with their moms as a dyad. I really kind of studied what is the thing that's missing until I felt like I've got it. And again, once I saw it, it was like it's always what it is. And the thing that's missing is that a kid doesn't feel safe or held in their emotions. They don't feel safely held in their emotions. And by the time your kid is bigger than you at 14, you're scared of them. So it's double scary to
Mm.
face that. But either way, whether they're 4 or 14, the process is the same. You have to first build emotional safety within you. That's healing the nervous system. That's learning to contain yourself and your own emotions. And the thoughts and rewiring the thoughts are a huge piece of that solution. We can't leave our overactive mind on the table and expect for change to be able to persist. But the healing part is really a rewiring and reprogramming into a new system. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's amazing. I'm so happy that there are people like you in the world that are doing this kind of work because families are the healing balm to the entire world. So I feel like, and moms too, it's like if it starts with the mom and you can help them, it's just unstoppable of what can come from that. So
Yeah.
I think that this has been absolutely amazing. Please tell our audience where they can connect with you and find you online for your free resources as well as your upcoming workshops.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you so much. I've enjoyed this so much too. I think the easiest places to find me are on IG. It's at honor_Genetsky. And on Facebook, you can find me under my first and last name, Honor Genetski, which will sort of lead to all the other channels. But the Facebook group for free support and guidance is called Overwhelm Solution for Moms. And that's a great place to start.
Perfect. We'll make sure that those are in the show notes below. And for everyone listening, I hope that you, in this episode especially, have been thinking about intuition that you've had and that you can trust who you are as a mother and knowing that that intuition is real. I really believe in that and that you have power within you to heal and to love and to help carry your family through whatever it is that you are battling with at the moment, because I haven't met any mother who isn't battling something. So thank you, Honor, so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Camille.
Hey guys, a little update here. I have finished my 2-week challenge of drinking Magic Mind every single day, and I'm happy to report I love it. It is a nutrition packed shot that helps your brain to perform without the crash or jitters that caffeine would give you. It is not made to replace your coffee, but actually work in addition to the benefits of having your morning coffee. I prefer it in the afternoon when I'm feeling a little bit of a slump and I'm about to go pick up the kids from school. It's really helped my body to remain sharp and also have some really clever ideas that I've been telling you about with our brand new release of 5-minute meditations for kids to help them maximize their mind. Now, one thing that I've also noticed with Magic Mind is that it has helped me to get over colds that I've had. My kids have gone back to school recently, and with 2 recent colds that have come into our home, I was only sick for 2 days, where many of them were sick for up to 5 to 7 days. So I don't know exactly how that worked with me, but I think the nutrition pack of what it had to offer really helped me out a lot. What is awesome is that I actually have a special discount. I was reading about some reviews of Magic Mind online, and one of the only negative things that people could say about it is that it never goes on sale. Well, I have some good news for you because I have a limited time offer where you can get 48% off of your first subscription order or 20% off of a one-time purchase with the code Call Me CEO 20. That is CALLME CEO 20. And you would find that at magicmind.com/call me CEO. I have been so impressed with the mental performance that it has allowed me to stay focused, and also that it tastes really fresh and delicious. It is packed with all natural ingredients as well as natural nootropics that help you to improve your brain performance in everything that you do. So I would love for you to give it a try. Let me know what you think. I'm a big fan, and I think you will be too. Hey everyone, thank you for tuning in to this week's episode. If you would love to support this show, which I hope you would, please leave a 5-star rating and review. It means so much to me that you are here. And anytime you leave a rating or review, that helps other women to be inspired and to find this show, which I hope that you would love to do that as well. Remember to take advantage of the Call Me CEO discount with Magic Mind. You can find that at magicmind.com/call me CEO. And again, a reminder, that code is Call Me CEO 20. That's CALLME CEO 20. Thank you so much, and I will see you next time.
Hey CEOs, thank you so much for spending your time with me. If you found this episode inspiring or helpful, please let me know in a comment and a 5-star review. You could have the chance of being a featured review on an upcoming episode. Continue the conversation on Instagram at Call Me CEO Podcast. And remember, you are the boss.